I swear it doesn't look like much, or it just looks like a piece of plastic, but I swear this slays fish. For whatever reason, it darts and zigzags all over the water. Fish go crazy for it. I have caught 50-pound tarpon on this, giant snook on this, moonfish, ladyfish, black grouper, jack crevalles, ladyfish, I mean, you name it, like inshore fishing, I've caught it on this tiny lure. It's amazing how well it works. This particular color is my go-to color for the DOA Terrorize. It actually has, it's in like an avocado green back. It has a gold body and a red chin on it. And it's like, I love this lure. Like, I'm so confident in throwing this lure. I throw it everywhere I go. And I end up catching something on it, like even on a slow day. You can pass those around. And the DOA Terrorize, whatever, what you do when you work it, is you want to cast it out, you want to let it sink to the bottom. Again, you want to think like a snook, skip it underneath docks, underneath pilings, against seawalls, working parallel to the structure. A lot of the times for the deep water channels, what you want to do is you really want to let it sink to the bottom. That might take a few seconds to sink to the bottom, depending on how fast the current is moving in your area. And once it sinks to the bottom, what I'll usually start with is a twitch, pause, retrieval method. So I will twitch the rod tip, like twitches twice, pause, and that kind of jerks the bait up and kind of makes it mimic an injured bait fish, and then it'll pause, and then that's when the lure falls back down. And a lot of the times, most of the time, that's when I get the bite, on the pause or on the fall when the lure is falling back down. So I'll do the twitch, pause, retrieval method. After I try that for a while and I don't get any bites, then I'll switch up my retrieval method. I'll see what the fish want. So I might start with a slow retrieval method where I'm barely just crawling the handle, and that's when you're really working the bottom of the water column. Most fish, like snook and tarpon, they usually like a slow rolling lure on the bottom. And the same thing with this one, which we'll get into in a second. But it's almost like you're bass fishing, so really slow retrieval. If that doesn't work, try a medium retrieval speed, so you're working the middle of the water column, and then even so, pick it up and make it a fast retrieve to see what the fish want, and throw in a pause here and there. It really just depends on what they want that particular day, because I can go out there and slay a ton of fish one day, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what they want. Go back out there the next day and I don't get a bite using that retrieval method. So it's just dependent on that day, and you have to figure it out yourself, being an angler, how they want to present it to them that day. And then another great bait that I like to use to get deeper in the water column is another DOA. This is the DOA Bait Buster, which is a bigger presentation, about double the size of that Terrorize there. And this almost mimics a finger mullet size bait. This, for whatever reason, kills it too. It kind of has a lot of action in the tail there when it swims, and I'll pass this around too. But DOA is actually a local-based company that is in Stuart, Florida. So if you want to support your local companies, check them out. But also, another fun fact about those DOA bait busters, if you guys know of Captain Blair Wiggins of Addicted Fishing, he's had a television show for years. He has way more years of fishing experience under his belt than I do.
You've been on the show.
I have been on the show. Nice, nice.
River Lagoon, right?
Yes.
Way up.
Yes. I was actually the first female angler guest ever on the show in, I think it was 16 seasons of filming. So it's pretty epic, and I caught a freaking 40-inch redfish on his boat. It was sick. So that video's on. Yeah, Mogan. Yes, sorry, Mogan. But he's an awesome dude. And you can check out that video, actually, it's on their YouTube channel too. So he caught the biggest snook of his entire life on a DOA bait buster, fishing the 10-cent bridge in Stuart just a couple years ago. So it just goes to show you that that bait works. There's a variety of different colors out there. I like the colors I just passed around are the colors, my favorite colors, my go-to colors. The black and silver, you can't go wrong with it. It really mimics a little finger mullet. So those are great. And the same thing with the DOA bait buster. You're gonna do a twitch, pause, slow retrieve, medium retrieve, figure out what they want. And again, for the tarpon, you really want to slow roll that on the bottom. You have to have some patience with it. You really just want to roll the nose on dragging the bottom surface. And it takes patience, and it's almost like you're fishing a worm for bass. So keep that in mind. I have yet to catch a target on the bait buster yet, but DOA I have. So now that I've been working the bottom of the water column, another great bait that I like to use, artificial bait that I like to use when it comes to working the bottom for snook, is a soft plastic from Gambler Lures. This is the Gambler easy swimmer, and Gambler Lures makes a lot of epic different baits. They're mainly known in the bass fishing world, particularly on Okeechobee. There's the game for bass fishing on Lake Okeechobee, but now it's a really well-known saltwater bait as well. The big difference, or the main reason why this works so well, is because of the segment between the body and the tail, and it gives it a ton of action in the water. It kicks and flutters, and it entices fish to look at it. It's really pretty, variety of different colors out there. They also make a variety of different sizes. This is like the standard easy swimmer size, probably 4 inches, and then they have a lot bigger ones and smaller ones as well. The cool thing about the Gambler, or actually here's the pack. The cool thing about the Gambler Easy Swimmer is the fact that you can rig it up so many different ways. You can rig it up so many different ways to fish, to use different fishing techniques. So for example, like you could use a swim bait hook with no weight on it, and you can let that free fall to the bottom, do a twitch, pause, and twiddle method, work it on the whole water column, or you can actually, with a non-weighted hook, you can reel it up to the surface once you cast it out, and you can let it, basically work it as a topwater lure. So you're gonna have it fluttering on the surface, so it's really cool that you can use this bait, one cast working the bottom, and then next cast working the top of the water column, so you don't have to switch out baits. So I think that's a really cool advantage that the Gambler Lure has. Another way I like to rig it is with a swim bait, with a jig hook, with a swim bait jig hook from Mustad, which is another great way to rig it. Depending on how fast the current is going and how deep you're fishing, really dependent on what size jig you use. But that I've heard from even my fans in Stewart catching the biggest snook of their entire life underneath the 10-cent bridge using that bait right there. That not so sexy color is one of my go-to baits as well. Go-to colors as well, works great. And for those of you guys that saw freshwater fish, that is a great bait for everything. Peacock bass, largemouth bass. My brother even caught a clown knife fish on that particular color right there. And the clown knife fish, you guys know, is an exotic fish down in Lake Ida. And it just works. I mean, everything loves it. And I highly recommend that you guys try using it. So now that we talked about that, we'll talk about another great bait that we like to use for snook fishing is the good old flare hawk. You guys that snook fish know about flare hawk. This, for whatever reason, snook really love to swallow this thing. The reason why it's called the flare hawk is because when you cast it out, mainly this is for working only in current. You really need current for this to work correctly. Casting it underneath bridges, underneath docks, or any deep water hole. What it does is once it goes to the bottom and you raise your rod tip, it creates a flare. It makes these hairs flare like this in the water, so it bounces, it flares, and that just really attracts the fish to it. For whatever reason, snook go crazy over it. There's some people that strictly fish this. The hardcore snook fishermen will just fish flare hawks. But I'll be honest, it does take some practice to learn how to use that correctly. And another honest thing is that I have yet to catch a snook on a flare hawk. He slays the fish on the flare hawks. He has caught some monsters. I mean, over 40 inches, the fattest snook I've ever seen in my life on them. I'm just not confident enough yet to throw it all the time, so I'll start throwing it, and then I don't get any bites, and I go back to like a DOA, a terrorize or whatever, something I'm confident in. But give it a chance. It's an excellent bait. What you do is you cast it out, let it sink to the bottom, and it's all like through feel and vibration in your line when you have current, but you raise your rod tip, and you basically let it come back down with the current. You're gonna feel it hit bottom again, and you kind of just slowly work it back to you with raising your rod tip and reeling in the slack and letting it come back down to the bottom. And you are going to lose quite a bit of those. They'll get hung up on the bottom. And if you're not losing them, that means you're not fishing them correctly. So losing a couple is all part of the game. And again, just try it out. If you haven't caught any fish on them, they are snook slayers. They're amazing. So I need to start throwing it more myself. He'll end up throwing it, and then I'll try something else just so we have two different baits in the water. So a lot of the times he's like the go-to flare hawk guy. So now that we talked about that, we're gonna move into the last of my favorite artificial baits for snook, which is going to be these lip divers. I am known for trolling for snook, inshore saltwater trolling for snook. We started doing that a few years ago, and especially on those winter days when it's too cold, too rough for us to get offshore. What we do is we have 4 lines out, and we'll troll lip divers. These are Uzuri lip divers. This is the Uzuri crystal minnow in the floating version, and then I also troll Uzuri Uzuri 3DB minnow, and this one is a suspending version. I have a variety of different colors that I like to use. These in particular are some of my favorites that I like to troll. And what we do is we have 4 lines out. Pass those around. Those hooks are sticky. So those have been tore up by fish. You'll see how many fish I've caught over time on these lures. But what we do is we troll. You need to have current. We kind of do it where we have a little current, no current, or water current, just depending on what we're doing that day. If we're going for a boat ride with friends or family. But we troll as close as possible to the docks, the seawalls, the structures, as close as we can possibly get without hanging up the lure or getting ourselves, getting ourselves in shallower water. So we have current. We have this one area where we fish where we kind of go back and forth on it. So I'll figure out if they like it.
Yeah, right. That's what.
Or they like it against the current. It's really just dependent on that day because it's interesting. Some days I caught a 45-inch snook with slap tide, no current 4 years ago on that king lure you're holding in your hand, and I had no current. So it's just, you never know. Like if you're not out there fishing, you never know. So fish, whether there's current, no current, fast current, you gotta have baits out in order to catch fish. So you'll be surprised. So what I do is we'll have 4 lines out. I have these things on my boat called tees. We like to call them tees, but basically it's an extender. It goes in the rod holder and it sticks out perpendicular to the boat. We put the rod in there so it sticks out further away from the boat on either side. You don't know what I'm talking about? I have videos on this too, so you can just literally search Darcizzle inshore trolling on Google, and the video will literally pop up where we're talking about these tees. So we'll have them out on either side of the boat. I'll have them all staggered lengths, so that way they don't get tangled with each other. But I'll usually have like one at 100 feet, one at 75 feet. Then I'll have 2 in the back of the boat. One probably 50 feet back. And then I have a big lip diver in the water. And this one is only like 10 to 20 feet back, depending on how deep it is. And I'm using a giant lip diver. This is an X-Wrap 30 from Rapala in the hothead color. And I don't know why they love this, but it's very bright in dirty water. This thing, I've caught some of the biggest fish in my life on this thing. My brother is a U.S. Marine, and he was here visiting 2 weeks ago, and we were inshore trolling, and sure enough, he caught a 42-inch snook on this. I mean, it works when the big fish are chewing, and if it gets right in front of their face, they're going to eat it. So it's a matter of really trolling this when, in front of their faces. I also like to troll in no wake zones. So like if we're going to another fishing spot and you have a long no wake zone to go through, what I'll do is I'll put a bait out. Usually this one I'll put out and get it right to the bottom. He hates it because he hates me putting out baits when we're trying to get from spot to spot. I'm like, I gotta put a bait out. I love to fish. I'll stay out to like the very last second to fish all day long, where he gets to a point where he's like, I'm tired, let's go home. And I gotta keep going all day long. Like I'm hardcore about it. He likes to eat on the boat, but I'm the one who loves fishing. So I'll troll this like underneath, in the middle of the day, broad daylight. I'll troll it underneath the bridge that we're trolling through, no wake zones. I've caught some of the biggest snook in my entire life underneath bridges when I have other boats passing through and stuff. So you just never hurts to put a bait out, even for 20 seconds, whatever the time might be. But I always like to get this out, especially when we're going from spot to spot. That hothead color, since I've caught so many giants on it now, that's the only color I'll troll. I do have a variety of different Rapala X-Wrap 30s. We even use that offshore, by the way. We like to troll it offshore, especially when it's mahi season. We've caught big mahi, blackfin tuna on it. You have to catch a wahoo on it, but that works great for offshore as well. Bonitas you'll catch on it. Kingfish will eat it, but you'll probably have to use wire trays with it with kingfish. And again, you'll lose those on the bottom too, because those go straight to the bottom. As soon as I lose one, they're like a $20 lure, I immediately go and buy more because I'm so confident in that lure. I gotta make sure I have them on my boat because I'm making videos. So I wanna make sure that I make good videos and I constantly gotta replenish my stuff. But love that lure, goes to depths of 30 feet, depending on how deep you're trolling or what canal system that you're in. You really just wanna get that bumping on the bottom. And again, works great. So the trolling speed is basically, it's not really dependent on your trolling speed. It's a matter of how the baits look in the water and if they're swimming correctly. So don't really pay attention to how fast you're trolling first. Pay attention to, is my lure swimming? Is it skipping out of the water? They all have lips on them to where they should be digging in the water. They should be swimming erratically. They should not be coming out of the water skipping. They should not be twisting. They should not be doing any of that. They should look like a normal, almost like a normal bait fish in the water. If it's not doing that, slow down your speed and figure out what's wrong, or check your knots. Sometimes the knots will actually make it swim incorrectly. But in general, our trolling speed is a little under 4 knots on my flats boat and on our big boat. So that's our general rule of thumb. But again, don't look at that. Just really look at, how your lures are swimming. And I will troll into the current. If you ask me that question, I will troll into the current, against the current. I'll troll when there's no current. We try it all. We like to see, if they're gonna bite, and and I was just saying earlier too, how we caught a couple over 40-inch snook with no current whatsoever, like a 0 slack tide, back in the bay, back where there's no water movement, back where there's dirty, nasty water, and we caught big ones. So again, you just never know. Have your lines out, and that's a great thing to do with your kids, your family. And I see a lot of people trolling inshore. It's a great family activity, especially in the winter time, because it gets tough to get out there in those bumpy seas. So, and this is one more I forgot to pass around. This is the Azuri 3D Minnow 2 in the suspending color. I really like anything with a dark back and an orange belly, just like that hawkhead. Anything with like orange and yellow and black combination just does really well. I'm not exactly sure why, but for me, it works. And that's what we like to do when it comes to snook. And while you're targeting snook like that, trolling as close as you possibly can to those docks, you'll also be surprised at all the other species you're going to catch too. Some really weird species. I've caught catfish, giant rays, like huge rays, everything that swims in the intercoastal, jack crevalles, ladyfish. Even a couple years ago, we caught that like really weird skinny fish with the sharp teeth from offshore. Remember the name? Not houndfish, but I've caught houndfish.
Don't remember?
Kingfish.
Oh yeah, ribbonfish. Have you heard of the wild ribbonfish? Yeah, ribbonfish is like the weirdest looking fish out there. A lot of guys will use them for trolling offshore for kings, and they're very rare to find inshore. But sometimes they make their way inshore, and we have like clear water or whatever. And we were catching like big ones. It was pretty wild. So you just never know. It's always a good time to throw those to troll those things. And again, some of the biggest snook in my entire life have come from trolling. So, and I've been blessed to catch dozens of fish over 40 inches long. So a lot of them have been on artificials. And again, 2 weeks ago, we caught that looker. And that's actually, that video is on YouTube for y'all to check out if you want to see it. And then also pictures on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and all that good stuff. So now that we've covered all the fishing, so live bait is obviously going to be like your go-to bait when it comes to targeting snook. I mean, a live bait usually always rivals an artificial bait. But when you have those tough days and you can't catch any mullet, you can't catch any bait, or you can't find any bait, or whatever the situation may be, the artificials is always, second resort. And people catch plenty of things on artificials, but live bait is always key. The best live bait we're going to talk about, but one of the easiest live baits to get for snook is going to be live shrimp. Every tackle shop has live shrimp. It's the best thing for kids to use. It's easy to use. Live shrimp stays on the hook a lot longer than dead shrimp. Dead shrimp falls right off, so I don't even like to use dead shrimp whatsoever when I'm fishing. Mainly I'll just use it for like get the water scented with shrimp. But I really like live shrimp. And live shrimp is really just best worked. A live shrimp is usually best rigged on a jig head. And I have a method of how I like to rig it. It's kind of hard to explain in person, but I do have videos on this too, so if you're interested, check them out. But what I'll do is I'll pinch the tail off. I'll pinch like the last segment of the tail off, and doing that gets the shrimp scent in the water. So immediately the fish are going to smell your shrimp, and they're going to come to that area where your shrimp is, and they're going to eat it. And everything eats a shrimp. I mean, think about it. Like every saltwater fish that swims will eat a live shrimp. I mean, it's the best thing that you could that you eat, and we love to eat it too. So pinching the tail off, and then I run, and then I basically like measure the shrimp up to the size of the jig head, and figure out where the barb is going to come through on the top side of the shrimp, and then work the body of the shrimp onto the jig head. Pop the barb of the hook up through the top of the shrimp's body, but you want to go between like 2 segments. So that's going to hold it a little better in position instead of going in the middle of a segment of the back of the tail. So try to get it through 2 segments, and then I just shove his body up onto the jig head as far as I possibly can. So to hide the weight, to hide the jig head, and some of the jig heads actually have like little, like I guess, little teeth, yeah, little teeth to actually hold the shrimp onto your jig head for a little longer.
What size are you using for the jig head?
Jig head, it's really just dependent on the size of the shrimp that you have in your possession. Sometimes they got little ones, sometimes they have big ones. A lot of the times I'm fishing moving water. I really like moving water when I'm fishing shrimp. So, you know, 3/8 to a 1/4 ounce is usually like my go-to size. But I don't have like a specific size, like number or jig number, size number for the shrimp, for the jig, I'm sorry. It's really, again, just dependent on like what you got in your possession. And sometimes you can ask like the tackle shop guys, like, hey, what jig head is gonna go best with this? A lot of the times too, like if I'm fishing for shrimp, sheep's head, which is a little off topic, I'll use like a tiny yellowtail jig head. Like the little tiny yellowtail jigs are like little crusher jigs. They're tiny from Mustad. I wish I had some, but they're teeny tiny. And that's what's gonna really make it drift naturally in the current for the sheep's head. So it's just dependent on like what I'm fishing for, but for snook, I really like to use a nice solid jig head hook so I can hook the fish, and I don't need to use a tiny little crusher jig if I'm fishing, targeting smaller fish. So it's really just dependent on that. And again, the shrimp fishing, using a shrimp is great for the kids. Like you're gonna catch everything that possibly swims. The problem with the shrimp though, when you're fishing for shrimp, when you're fishing for snook, is the fact that like most other fish or trash fish are gonna get to your shrimp first and eat it before snook ever does. So that's the only problem. Like you might go through a lot more shrimp than you thought you would. You're gonna catch snook. It's just a matter of letting that sink, and a lot of times even before it gets anywhere near a snook is sitting, the catfish or the ladyfish, the jacks, or whatever is in the area that's small. Sometimes like tiny mangrove snappers are our enemy. They'll eat it all day long, and I get so frustrated because I'm like trying to get a snook on the bottom. So that's the only problem with that. Is like you're gonna get a bigger variety of different fish, which is good if you want to fish with your family and kids and stuff. But for the snook, you're just gonna have more of a bycatch when you're fishing shrimp. And sometimes, I like to get the big selects too. The bigger the shrimp, usually the better. The smaller fish will pick at it if it's a bigger presentation. So a bigger shrimp, that a snook can see and wants to swallow it whole, is usually going to be your go-to. But sometimes tackle shops don't have big shrimp; they only have small shrimp. So just depending on what you got in your possession or what the tackle shop has. So the best bait that I like to use, there's a couple of them. But the best live bait is number one is pilchards. Whenever I have pilchards and I cast net a bunch in my cast net, we caught some a couple of months ago. I was like, this is so candy. We're gonna have an epic day. Like I knew I was gonna have an epic day with my well full of live pilchards. Snook love live pilchards in my opinion. Even when I have a ton in the boat, we'll usually actually start to live chum with them. We'll hit them on the side of the boat and get them in the water and start getting the fish fired up. And when the fish start feeding on them, that's when I'll usually put a bait out and usually hook a snook right away. Like I said, a couple months ago, we had full front coming through, cast netted a bunch of pilchards, and within 10 minutes of fishing a seawall, we caught 4 or 5 nice sized snook right off that seawall. They were doing backflips when I hooked them and stuff. It was epic. So pilchards, I love to use. And right now in the wintertime, it's really difficult to get live bait in our area. A lot of the live bait, well, they're not here. They migrated out. They're kind of in the Florida Keys right now where it's warmer. And then as the springtime comes, like April, May, that's usually when they start migrating back up to our area. And the summer months is when we have the biggest variety of bait in the inshore waters and the offshore waters. And Sabiki's work, we have thread fins, pilchards, sardines, cigar minnows, everything comes into this area. And when you have a ton of bait in the live well in the summer months, we usually do really, really well. So, and again, the live bait guys too, don't forget about the live bait guys that sell bait on the water. You can buy it from them, especially if we're struggling to catch bait or we're trying to get to a fishing spot right away in the morning and we have a goal in mind and I don't have time to go catch bait. We will buy bait just so we can, it gives us the opportunity to save us some time and effort and, already have the bait on the boat. So live pilchards, my number one. Then the second favorite bait would be mullet, live mullet. Live mullet is here year round. They're here in thick numbers during the mullet run, like I explained earlier. So they're super easy to net. You can go in the middle of the intercoastal and you'll see just hordes of mullet coming down the intercoastal, and you could throw the net in 10 foot of water and catch a ton of them. So it's so much fun. But the problem with the mullet run fishing with mullet is that your mullet looks like the zillions of other mullet that are in the intercoastal or on the beach. So you really want to like make sure that the fish or the predators see your mullet. They can actually spot it, see it, and they eat that one, and not the zillions of others that look exactly alike. So when you're fishing mullet, side note, but when you're fishing mullet in the mullet run, you want to cast them on the outside edges of schools. And sometimes you can even put a weight on them if like you're on the beach fishing and they're all coming down the coast. What you want to do is put a weight on it, get it down underneath the school, and a lot of times that's where the tarpon are rolling and coming through the school and eating dozens of them with one gulp. So getting it down low where the fish are like the tarpon and the snook, they'll come from underneath the school and then they'll come up and feed, and a lot of times they'll explode and then go back down in the water. But they'll see your bait down there, and you'll more than likely catch a fish. Like you don't want your bait swimming in the middle of the other ones. They're never gonna see it, and they're gorging on these fish. So you just want to put it on the outside or underneath the school, or even like with the artificial baits, for example, when it's mullet run fishing, or first in the morning, or even during the day when you see the giant tarpon and the snook and everything blowing them up on topwater, throw a topwater bait. Put a topwater bait on that looks completely different than the mullet that are around. So like the Zuri hydro pencil is a great lure to throw. It's different, it looks unique. Throw it on the outside edge of the school. The fish are gonna see the zillions of mullet, but then they might see yours and you're like, oh, that looks a little different, let me eat that. So they'll actually zone in and target your artificial or your mullet if it's just on the outside of the school. So that's a good tip to keep in mind. But back to the live bait not being here this time of the year, it's just difficult. But we do have like resident mullet that are here year round. You can find them up in the mangroves and up against the oyster beds. For today, for instance, we were in Jupiter, and there was a little mangrove islands like right at the Jupiter sandbar there. Zillions of mullet in there, so I cast netted a bunch. It took a while because you really need that sun to be in the right position. My shadow was like 20 foot long, so it was impossible, and the mullet are very, very smart. So cast net them first thing in the morning, and you'll have a great day. A lot of times I like to use like a finger mullet size mullet for snook fishing, just because a smaller fish or a bigger fish can inhale it. A big one, like a 6 or 7 inch mullet, like actually that's what I had cast netted today. It was tough for like jack crevalles or even for smaller snook to eat it. Like they're interested in it and they're looking at it and they're popping on it a couple times, but I never actually like had a snook inhale it. It was just because he was like a little too much on the big side. But you never know, having bigger and a mixture of smaller and bigger mullet with you, you're opening up your opportunities to catch a giant tarpon or a big snook or little snook, whatever it might be. So mullet is always a great thing to go to year round, but I'm so excited for the bait to come in the next couple months, because it's been rough as far as the live bait goes. The last month I've been having a hard time trying to get it. So mullet is great, and then again, goggle eyes, croakers. The goggle eyes are super expensive from the live bait guys. Croakers are excellent too. In Boynton Beach, we don't have a lot of inshore, we don't have a great inshore fishery. We don't have any grass. We don't have any seabeds. We don't have a lot of oyster beds. There's not a lot there to hold fish. So for us, in our opinion, it's one of the worst places to inshore saltwater fish. I've caught my share of huge fish in there. Just catching consistently, we like to go to Jupiter and Stewart. There's a lot more water up there. You have oyster beds, you got grass, you have big giant inlets flowing in and out of water. It's making that water clean, it's pushing in fish. So those are our best places to go. And then I just have basically a really quick story, but this past summer we were fishing in Stewart, and we got there first thing in the morning. We went offshore, I sweekied a whole bunch of live bait in our boat. We went offshore looking for mahi. We found a 50-foot bamboo log or tree trunk or something out there floating, and there was zillions of mahi around it. So we caught our share of mahi, nice size ones, 8 to 10 pounds. And then in the middle of nowhere, we had a bait down deep. I think it was a live thread fin, and I caught a sailfish, in the middle of the deep sea, which has happened to us in the past, but it's more rare than common. So it was pretty cool to catch sailfish. We had some bait left over after our fishing day was over, so we were let's go in and fish the mullet run. Fish the snook spawn, because it was still during the snook spawn in the heat of the summer. It was July, August. So we went to the snook spot to fish for them on the south side of the Stewart Inlet, cast it out a thread fin. free-lined it actually, and I watched like a 42-inch snook just come airborne out of the water, eat this bait. So, I mean, it's pretty epic, like to say that you can catch a giant sailfish, mahi, and giant snook all in one day. And you only can do that here in Stewart, not in Stewart, well, you only can do that here in South Florida. I mean, it's pretty epic that you can say you did both in one day and have an epic day of fishing. And I mean, that female snook, during the spawn, they're so fat and they're so thick that she was so heavy that the landing net actually broke. So it was pretty epic fishing. That video's on YouTube.